There are more campaigns than ever to choose from in Warhammer 3, and it makes deciding who to play nearly impossible. However, whilst the quantity is the highest it's ever been, it doesn't mean the quality is too. Every faction has some stinkers, so to help you avoid them, here's the best campaign for every faction in Total War Warhammer 3. Starting of course with the Beastmen, and we have to go with Taurox. A pretty easy one to start us off. Taurox has everything that the other Beastmen lords have, but then also has a bunch of stuff stacked on top of it. His campaign is like a delicious meaty stack of pancakes, and each new layer is somehow more tasty than the last. The Beastmen as a faction in general are one of the best campaigns, both in terms of fun and power. Their free recruitment and literal burn the world down mentality makes them supremely enjoyable and refreshing, coming from the usual conquest expansion that almost everyone else uses. Taurox adds on to this with his momentum mechanic, allowing him to take on the meatball role his stature would suggest. He pinballs his way through the map at high speed, racking up all kinds of bonuses the more he bounces on it, and by it, I mean enemy armies and settlements. He is also extremely strong, but that's not really a factor for this video. I'm more aiming for fun and how well the campaign is designed. Sometimes that means that my choice will be someone super strong, and sometimes it won't. In this case, it is someone super strong, and Taurox is the way to go if you want to give the Beastmen a try. Plus, it doesn't hurt that you can get in with a DLC with Oxyotl instead of having to spring for just the Beastmen. Next up, we're Bretonnia, and I'm going with Reponse. The best Bretonnian campaigns are the ones where you end up as far away from Bretonnia as possible. Their homeland is one of the safest but also the most boring areas in the map, at least for the first 50 or so turns. However, on the coast of Nehekara, things are a lot more interesting, even if they are a touch dicey. Location aside, Reponse has a lot more that makes her campaign a little more compelling. Her reliance on those lower tier units and expertise using them makes the balance between her peasant economy and military more important than ever. Her water supplies mechanic adds some added complications when navigating the desert, making the act of getting around even more thought out. She still has to deal with some of the bad stuff like vows and chivalry, but she's still a Bretonnian after all, you can't expect too much. She's far from the easiest campaign in the faction, but I believe she's absolutely the most fun. A challenging location, engaging mechanics, and unique gameplay style unlike any of the other lords. Next up, Chaos Dwarves, and I'm going with Dratsuath the Ashen. Honestly, you can go for any of the Chaos Dwarves and have a good time. Just like you can't go wrong with Holy Energy. You probably heard of drinks like Holy before because let's be honest, they're pretty much everywhere at this point, but where others are rammed full of artificial flavors, preservatives, and even lead, Holy is all natural, baby. Instead of being comprised of the contents of a biochemistry thesis, they're made up of all natural ingredients, resulting in tasty flavors that don't give you that artificial tummy trouble, and believe me, I should know. Plus, if you compare the cost to traditional energy drinks, you're looking at 2/3 of the price, and you don't need to find a place to store 50 cans, and you don't need to worry about all those artificial ingredients. They have like a billion flavors to choose from, they have taster sets so you can try before you commit to a full tub, and if you're going late into the night or simply aren't a caffeine fiend, they also have iced tea and hydration. Check them out at the link in the description. I genuinely really enjoy Holy's products. If you click the link below, you'll still get £5 off your order, so check them out to give them a go and support the channel. A huge thanks to Holy for continuing to partner with the channel. Alright, back to the list. So as I was saying, you can't go wrong no matter who you pick, since all of them are pretty much the exact same mechanically. That means it comes down to location, effects, and the lord themselves, and I think Dratsuath comes out the best in all three. He's in the middle of the Chaos Dwarf wasteland, so gets to take part in the inevitable brawl for power a little later into the game. He's also the best at creating armaments and increasing his capacity for powerful units, so gets to have the most fun with the roster. His army stuff is also fine, and as a lord, he has the new lore of magic whilst also being a fun fighter. And of course, you get to make use of the Dawizar's unique approach to settlements, currency, trade caravans, and more, while squeezing the most out of everything you can. Nothing more to say, since this one is really just personal preference, but then again, so are all lists like this. As for the Daemons of Chaos, Daniel, with no competition, he kind of just has to be. At least he finally wins at something other than the worst lord competition. Now, coming to the Dark Elves, we have Khorne Helbron. The Dark Elves have some pretty diverse legendary lords in terms of playstyles. You have Malekith for your basic campaign, Marathi for some Slaanesh seduction, Lokir to be a pirate, Malus to be a one-man army, and Rakarth to raise the world with monsters. However, I actually think that Khorne Helbron might be the best representation they have for embodying the spirit of the Dark Elves. Outside of starting her campaign in their homeland, she has perhaps the largest focus on gathering voluntary workers out of everyone. She can then put them to use in her Death Knights and give her faction all kinds of bonuses. She can also make lots more use of rights and diktats and even just farming money from these workers, so can really maximize both capturing them and getting a ton of value back. Add on that her military focus for the faction is all about super edgy and often scantily clad elves, and to me, she embodies what I imagine when I think of the Dark Elves. She may not have a questionable relationship with her son, at least to my knowledge, but aside from that, she's a total blast, even if the Dark Elves in general, in my opinion, are a little bit wonky these days. Coming to the Dwarves, and I have to go with Malachi. Whilst he may not perfectly embody the Dwarf playstyle shared by the 5 other Lords, it is impossible to deny that he is by far the most fun campaign they have, and also one of the most fun campaigns in the game. His gunship allows him to roam the map, battling whoever he likes without needing to run back for recruitment. His adventures allow him to upgrade the artillery and war machines of the roster, which are some of the most fun units in the roster by far. And his hostile starting location means he's never short on people to fight, so it's constantly keeping you on your toes. You can also easily choose to take part in other aspects of the Dwarf campaign, such as the regular Ages of Reckoning or any of the objectives in the Book of Grudges. His playstyle isn't as slow and defensive as most of the other Dwarfs, so if you're looking to embody that style of play, you might want to try one of the others. But if you're looking for the most fun you can possibly have when playing as the Dawi, Malachi is undoubtedly your man. Next, the Empire. Elspeth. Another easy pick, and no, I'm not going to say sorry to Cal, he's had his time, but now it's the year of the Guild Boss. She still starts in the Empire, so gets to take part in the quest to restore it to its former glory. However, outside of this, she can make use of her Imperial Gunnery School to empower the ranged units in the roster to a pretty insane degree. Once again, these are some of the most fun units in the roster, so making them better and more fun to use is an instant win. Her campaign also has a very clear-cut objective from the start, with Vlad being the obvious antagonist for you to rain your fire upon. It's hard to really explain what's so fun about Elspeth outside of her sheer ability to have armies full of weapons of mass destruction that don't let enemies get close. The one downside is it's harder to use some of the other fun units in the roster outside of the range stuff, as there's no real job for them other than to sit back and applaud. From Grand Cathay, I'm going with Yuan Bo. I'm not trying to pick DLC lords for every faction, but unfortunately, they just end up being the most feature complete in nearly every instance. Yuan Bo has basically everything the other two lords have and a bunch of stuff on top. You can mess around with Harmony and the Compass, but now add a bunch of new compass directions, as well as his admin ability, which I promise is more fun than it sounds. It allows him to use all kinds of abilities and specialize his capital settlements for a specific purpose. Plus, his dual start allows him to focus on either Cathay or the New World, depending on which you prefer. For me, the other two lords in Cathay tend to grind to a halt once you've eliminated the immediate threats, but Yuan keeps things interesting for far longer, whether you decide to commit to his dual start or not. Plus, he's still a fantastic army leader, and transforming into a dragon will never not be fun. From the Greenskins, we have Grimgor Ironhide. The Greenskins are one of the hardest to pick for when you're looking for who's the best. If it's mechanically deep, it's probably Grom. If it's bullshittery and sneakiness, it's Skarsnik. But if you want someone who embodies what it means to be a Greenskin, I don't think you can beat Grimgor. He and his faction are built for one thing, and that is warring. He is one of the greatest battlers in the game with truly insane stats that make him a monster in melee. His focus on black orcs and melee heroes reinforces this playstyle and is exactly what I think of when I picture the Greenskins. Plus, his ability to make insane stacks from all this battling allows him to fuel his military like no one else. His starting location is surrounded by enemies, so he'll have no shortage of targets for his wars, and will be able to chain victories together in no time. If you've never played a Greenskin campaign, then try Grimgor first. He's everything you think they will be, and more. From the High Elves, we have Alariel. I feel like when you're talking about the High Elves, you have to pick someone who plays on Ulthuan. Tyrion is fun and all, but to me, Alariel is the true ruler of the High Elf Donut, and taking it on a quest to secure its borders is never a bad time. For starters, she arguably benefits the most when Ulthuan is secure, so has the most incentive to maintain order. Her insulated starting location means she's fairly safe from any immediate threats, but her starting war takes her to the coastline in no time to keep things interesting. The northern coast is also usually the most contested, with Dark Elves, Vampire Coast and more heading down to try and take control of the Shrine of Cain. Speaking of which, if you want to give the sword a go, then Alariel is one of the best order campaigns to use it. Her unique ability to bring joy and peace wherever she goes can just about counteract any negative effects the sword might bring. This isn't even mentioning how she can make excellent use of base high elf mechanics like influence, so you'll get a great feel for how the faction as a whole works. Plus, she's one of the best at making use of Sisters of Avalon, who are some of the strongest units in the roster. And on top of that, she can make use of tree spirits to keep things interesting and varied. An excellent lord with an excellent campaign. What more could you ask for from the High Elves in all their snootiness? From Khorne, I went with Skarbrand. Weirdly, despite Skarbrand having the least mechanics of all the Khorne lords, and arguably being the weakest one once everything is underway, I can't really imagine anything else when I think of Khorne. It might just be because he's a giant demon that's positively overflowing with rage, or the fact that he is so simple, but I just think he's neat. He's hated by basically everyone, but that's kind of a given when playing as Chaos. He'll be fighting everyone he comes across, and so it's a good job he's extremely good at it. He can create an ungodly number of blood host armies to follow him around and raise the world in his name. He can heal in enemy territory, so he rarely has to stop for a break. He collects a crazy number of skulls from battle and gives his endgame demons regen, whilst in melee, making for a faction that never gets close to touching the breaks. He is full force straight ahead all game long, and I really can't think of anything more fitting for the Blood God. Plus, when I say he's the weakest, that doesn't mean he's actually weak. It just means the other two have the potential to become so broken that it's actually kind of not fun to play. This way you get to feel like a force of hellish nature, tearing the world apart, whilst also remaining somewhat balanced. Emphasis on somewhat. From Kislev, I'm going with Tsarina Katerin. Not gonna lie, tough choice, but it's not because they're all so fun. I'm exaggerating a little bit because there is fun to be found when playing as Kislev, but you just have to go looking for it a little bit more than most factions, at least in my opinion. Of the four lords, Boris sucks, Mama Stanky might have some fun stuff, but she also has horrendous busy work, so that leaves the two political rivals. Katerin just happens to be my preferred of the two, but it could really go either way. Both have access to the court and orthodoxy system and the boons it brings, both can make use of Atamans in the Ice Court training camp, and of course the whole wheat bread that is the Kislev roster. Katerin is a little better with some late game units and Frost heroes, Gestaltin is a little better with some early game units and the Patriarchs. They're really close enough to play either, but in my opinion, Kitty Katerin lets you use some of their fun spells a little sooner, and tends to scale a little bit better into the late game. Plus, Gestaltin starts very close to Norsca, so tends to end up getting stomped pretty early, which might not be what you want for your first game as Kislev. From the Lizardmen, I've got to go with Gorok. The Lizardmen are another faction where you could pick a few different lords based on your judging criteria. Unique playstyle, Orcs all the way. Challenging mechanics, Tehanowin, it has to be. However, if you want to experience the Lizardmen as the great plan intended, then look no further than Gorok. He may not have any crazy mechanics, but what he lacks in complexity, he more than makes up for with pure, unadulterated fun. First off, he starts with Lord Croak, a legendary hero capable of casting hydrogen bombs onto the battlefield to rack up an insane amount of value. His faction focus is on defensive play, and Saurus make him extremely strong right out the gate and nearly impossible to attack. His location in the middle of Lustria is surrounded by enemies, but that's all the better to feed Croak more XP with. Like I said, he's dead simple, but frankly an absurd amount of fun. Plus, if you want a legendary lord you can just throw into combat and not really have to worry about him, Gorok is one of the easiest to use. From Norsca, we have Wulfric. Picking the best Norscan lord is kind of like picking my favourite kind of diarrhea. Like, if I ate a family-sized bag of gummy bears, I'm gonna have a bad time, but it's still better than if those gummy bears were covered with hot sauce. And so I proclaim Wulfric to be the standard pack of gummy bears diarrhea of Norsca. Is he a ton of fun to play for turns on end? No, not even close. However, is he the best Norscan lord of the two we have so far? Yeah, I think so. He's better at using marauders and mammoths, gets to ride a mammoth, and even starts with a mammoth. He's literally winning because of mammoths, okay? What more do you want me to say? He's also better placed to take over Norsca and drop down into the Empire, but who cares about geography? Honestly, if you want to play Norsca, probably just wait for the DLC. If it ever arrives, they'll at the very least be different than what they are now, and I'd be impressed if they somehow managed to make them worse. From Nurgle, I'm going with Epidemius. Now, before all you Tamachanners come into the comments saying he's super strong and has loads of mechanics, I want you to know that you are right. He does in fact have the deepest mechanics in all of Nurgle, but, in my opinion, they're not very Nurgle of him. He feels like a Warriors of Chaos campaign, and so my choice is actually Epidemius, as I said. Kugath is the OG and can technically make the best plagues, but in my head, Nurgle is all about spreading that love to as many people as possible, rather than min-maxing every little effect. Epidemius is all about spamming plagues like your life depends on it, and that results in a very particular playstyle. You're less about saving up infections for one big plague, and more so spending them as fast as you can earn them to drown the world in a sea of disease. Plus, the bonuses he gets from doing this are extremely rewarding, so make him into a real powerhouse. The focus on Plague Bearers is simple and fun and allows you to really lean into the Nurgle battle playstyle of slow, steady attrition. If nothing else, playing this campaign will train you to build plagues incredibly quickly due to how often you'll be doing it, and plus, his starting location has a ton of potential enemies, so it keeps the challenge coming and means you are never short on targets to infect. For the Ogre Kingdoms, I'm going to go with Golgi the Maneater. To be honest, you can't really go wrong with the ogres these days. They're not perfect, but each lord is quite a lot of fun. With that said, no one lives the roaming mercenary fantasy quite as much as Golgi the Man-Muncher. His mercenary contracts take him all over the world, doing the dirty work of all kinds of factions. This not only lets you see all areas of the map and battle against all kinds of factions, it also means you never have to put down roots and take territory. I mean, sure, you can do that, but with all the teleporting, you're better off keeping moving and relying on camps for everything you need. Now, I will say that this playstyle is really fun, until you get sick of it in like 50 turns. What you're doing at the start is what you're doing at the end, just with a better army going against harder targets. This is a great campaign for when you want to blast through and fight a bunch of different factions all over the map in rapid succession. If you're looking for something super mechanically deep, then this may not be for you, but for mercenary battle spam, you can't really go wrong. From Skaven, I have to go for Throt the Unclean. I was torn between Ikke and Throt since they are both great in many of the same ways. Both enhance certain units in the roster in all kinds of fun ways, both start in fairly central locations that give them a number of options of where to go, and both are mad scientists with a loose grasp on the code of ethics. In the end, however, you can use weapons teams as anyone else, but no one can cram as many bonuses onto generic units as Throt. His Flesh Lab allows him to create some truly busted units with a ridiculous number of buffs, but an equally ridiculous number of downsides and penalties for carrying so many modifications. All kinds of basic units can be modified, making his armies truly unique from each other. Plus, how you interact with this Flesh Lab, from creating the necessary resources and being rewarded with units, makes for a very fun gameplay loop with rewards at every step of the way. He's got the most engaging campaign in the Skaven, one of the most challenging starting locations with enemies in every direction, and somehow still feels extremely strong. One of the best designed lords in the game, and definitely the best of the Skaven. From Slaanesh, Nakari, another winner by default. Honestly, if you want to play a Slaanesh campaign at the minute, just play one of the Warriors of Chaos who are aligned with the Boob God. They get most of the same mechanics whilst also being a lot more fun to play, either that or wait for the DLC, I guess. From the Tomb Kings, we have Settra. Picking the best Tomb King was actually pretty challenging because honestly, they're all about the same. Sure, Cathay sucks because he's off in the mountains, but the other three are pretty much the same aside from some minor differences. Technically, Arkan has access to some vampiric power, but I'd rather just play the vampires. Then between Settra and Khalida, I had to go for the imperishable one. He's probably the most simple of the Tomb Kings, but even so, has a few little changes that make him a great way to experience them for the first time. His growth-based skills allow him to upgrade settlements extra fast, so as long as he has gold, he can keep things moving pretty well. His replenishments and recruitment effects are also great for keeping his army full and functional, which is never a bad thing. And who can forget leadership aura size? Aside from that, you have everything that makes the Tomb Kings unique, which these days is nothing. The Canopic Jars and Mortuary Cult, which has been stolen by like 8 different factions by now, unit caps and free recruitment, which has been stolen by the Beastmen. The Tomb Kings aren't not fun, but if you've played everyone else first, there's nothing here that will blow you away. However, if you do play them first, it can be fun to see when the mechanics were used elsewhere, so it all depends on how full the glass is to you. From Tzeentch, I went with Kairos Fateweaver. Despite there being 2 lords in Tzeentch, there is only one choice of who to play if you want the full Tzeentch experience. Kairos is the only lord that has a campaign with any real stakes. If you want to stomp the entire world, then the Changeling will do just fine, but it's kind of a separate game mode with how gimmicked and overpowered his campaign in. Kairos still has some Tzeentchian fuckery, but not enough to make him a cakewalk. His interesting starting location gives him plenty of challenge, no matter how broken the Changing of the Ways is, or isn't, depending on the patch. His manipulation of the winds, combined with his ability to swap spells in and out at will, allow him unparalleled magical ability. He's one of the strongest and most versatile casters in the game, so if you like blowing things up with magic and manual battling, you will have a blast. Tzeentch campaigns are definitely an acquired taste, but if you're a fan of mischief, magic, and manipulation, Kairos is your guy. From the Vampire Coast, we had to go with Count Noctilus. It is hard to choose anyone but him when talking about the quintessential Vampire Coast campaign. He literally starts with his one settlement being a whirlpool in the middle of the ocean and sailing off the coast of Ulthuan. He can keep that one settlement all game long and sack and raise his way through to the endgame. Shipbuilding allows him to get everything he needs, making settlements somewhat necessary unless you just want to use them to farm more gold. He even has improved horde recruitment capacity, so once he has some recruitment building sorted, he is pretty unstoppable. Add on a Necrophect starting unit and a bunch of buffs for them, and you are cooking with gas. Granted, all of this is on the bones of the Vampire Coast, and they're a little bit wonky to say the least. Vampire Coves are a little bit broken more often than they're not, treasure map hunts are essentially pointless with pitiful rewards, and the infamy system is more of a loose concept than an actual mechanic. Still, if you want to roam the world and raid coastlines as undead pirates, there is no one better than the Count. Speaking of which, from the Vampire Counts, we're going with Vlad von Carstein. Speaking of undead, the OG vampires have a decent number of lords to choose from, which is weird since they're still criminally left behind in recent years. That said, the best lord to me has always been Vlad von Carstein. Technically, Manfred has the most mechanics, but I'm not going to give it to him just because he's a member of a book club. Vlad has everything you need to enjoy the undead playstyle and starts in their ancestral home, aka the Warhammer 1 area. If you want to go with his wife, I can't say I blame you, but for me, the hilarity of full army vanguard deployment is too good to pass up. The vampires lack any real ranged options and aren't the fastest, so anything that gets my army into melee faster is a win for me. Plus, his increased movement range for all armies lets him really get around and take the fight to the Empire. The power couple are a blast to play, and Vlad is basically unkillable, which I understand seems redundant when you talk about the undead, but this guy never stays down for long. Whether you're talking absurd regen in battle or wound recovery that might as well not exist, nothing can keep him down for long. The Vampire Counts may not be the best or most up-to-date faction, but they are the one that made me fall in love with Total War Warhammer. So, if for no other reason, give Vlad a try for your old pal Damneders. Unless this is the first of my videos you've watched, in which case, subscribe and play Vlad for a chance to be locked in a burning building for $500,000. Legal disclaimer, this is a joke. It's kind of psychotic locks in a burning building, no matter how much money you promise them. Even for a trained professional, this is probably not the type of content you will be posting to a mainly child audience. Mr. B! Next up, Warriors of Chaos, and I gotta go with Be'lakor. Weirdly, my favourite Warrior of Chaos is someone that I don't even think should be in the faction. I think Be'lakor would make a lot more sense as a Demon of Chaos, but that doesn't mean I don't find his faction to be a total blast. His faction effects seem simple from faction selection, but once you get in game, things really start to open up. First of all, excellent silent location that allows him to chain dominate Norsca in record time and carry all that momentum down into Kislev or the Empire or even Bretonnia if you feel like it. His unholy manifestations allow him to activate a bunch of buffs for his faction, as well as open rifts for teleportation across the world. His expertise in using demonic units and being a demon himself also make him... Alright, I can't make demonic units sound good. They kinda suck, but they're still very cool and make his armies look badass. And his other mechanic is somewhat convoluted but very cool. It allows him to corrupt human lords into becoming demon princes. They may not be able to be customized like Daniel, but still, they're pretty strong lords, and plus, this is one of the few ways you can actually corrupt someone in another faction, so I'll take what I can get. Oh, and this isn't even mentioning everything else the Warriors of Chaos have, like their Horde upgrade system, gifts from Chaos, and more units than you can count. This faction on the whole rocks, and Be'lakor is one of the best ways to experience it. And lastly, from the Wood Elves, another of my favourite factions and another with an extremely unique playstyle that I find to be extremely underrated. The main three factions all rock, but if you're going to play one, it is hard not to recommend the Sisters of Twilight. They have basically everything that the others have, but also a bunch of other fun stuff. So, base Wood Elf mechanics first. Magical forests all around the world. You take them over, then cleanse the area around them to heal them up, perform rituals to unlock all kinds of bonuses, and power up the Oak of Ages for, you guessed it, even more bonuses. You get to teleport all around the map, fight all kinds of factions, and also bathe in more gold than you could ever know what to do with. Plus, the Sisters have the Forge of Daith, which allows them to get hold of all kinds of powerful items and buffs. And if all of that wasn't enough, you transform Hawk Riders, which are a pretty good unit, into B-52 bombers capable of raining destruction onto the battlefield. As I always say, the Wood Elves have one of the most fun campaigns in the game, so if you never have before, give them a try, and I promise it will not be a bad time. But what I want to know is, who's your personal favourite campaign in Total War Warhammer 3? Is it someone on this list, or maybe someone I missed? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to check out Holy at the link below to get some tasty beverages and support the channel. Like, subscribe, and if you want more Warhammer 3 list videos, then check out this one, all about the worst mechanics in the game that desperately need an update.